Um, probably my only persisting and long-standing, people like to say, some of my best friends are black kind of thing. One of my best friends is white. And I've known him for too long. He was an undergraduate student of mine at Florida State. And I simply thought he was just another student. And he turned out to be an absolute pest. And he clung on to me like absolutely, I guess, hair lice, and which black folks don't have too much of. And he has now, for close to 20 years, been a very, very loyal friend and devoted follower of my insanity. In fact, he believed almost everything I told him. He even ended up in the heart of Africa several years ago in Ghana and called me and said, "Now, what did you say I was supposed to see here?" And that's Paul Bike, and Paul, Paul, stand up and say hi to the folks there. Very good friend of mine. And so I knew that he has been very concerned about this issue of white racism. And he has developed an approach to it, which is an approach that I have shared with him. Because I've always believed that the solution or the approach to resolving racism was not for white people to convince black people that they were nice people, but for white people to talk to other white people about the difficulties of being white people. And that to engage in trying to address an understanding of racism from a white perspective. I have told Paul, as I tell people all the time, that I am not an expert on diversity. I do not try to teach white people what it means to be black. I'm not an instructor in terms of helping to release white people from their confusion by being racist. I am not one who is committed to trying to change the paradigmatic structure to a multicultural perspective so that we can understand the dynamics of diversity and understand the integral commitment that we all have to doing the things we have to do. I don't do any of that. My work is to help black folks better understand who they are, what they are, and how to get free. That's the work I do. And I don't apologize for that. So when I heard that this conference was going to be taking place, I contacted Paul and told him, I said, "Paul, this may be a place where you can meet some people who are doing the same things that you want to do, and that is trying to correct the problems of white racism by addressing those issues within the confines of the white community. And I think that you'll be able to find some real partners here." And I talked to him last night, and he says, he's been in heaven since he got here on yesterday. He said that Tim Wise and many other people in their presentations just really fired him up. So he's really ready now to go back to Tallahassee and destroy white racism in Tallahassee and around the world. Good luck, Paul. Okay, I want to actually do three things this morning. And I'm going to try to, Eddie has already told me that I don't really have to worry too much about the time. He will pull me down when my time is run out. So I won't watch the watch, I'll just watch for the hook to pull me off. But I want to talk about three things in the time that I have. One is I want to describe for you my understanding of white privilege, of what white privilege is and what it's not. I want to talk about a phenomena that I don't see on the agenda of this program, and that is black privilege. And then I want to talk about black collaboration with white privilege. Those are 3 points I want to make, and hopefully I can do it without going too far off the mark. If I lay out my intentions, then you'll know when I have so far digressed that I've forgotten what I'm talking about. So at least you know where I want to go as I start off anyway. Number one, I want to talk about what white privilege is not, because I think it's very important that we not confuse white privilege with a variety of allied conditions. I think it's very important that we not confuse the issues of white privilege with analogous behaviors that we might in fact begin to confuse the metaphor with the similarity, of the metaphor with the identity of the two things. So, first of all, white privilege is not masculine prerogatives. Masculine prerogatives and the consequent sexism and patriarchalism that follows from that is in fact allied and similar conditions, but it is not the same thing as white privilege. White privilege is not
Dr. Naim Akbar's discourse on white privilege and black collaboration presents a profound examination of the racial dynamics that shape contemporary societies. His insights challenge conventional narratives and push for a deeper understanding of how systemic power structures perpetuate racial hierarchies. By dissecting white privilege, introducing the often overlooked concept of black privilege, and critically examining the role of black collaboration in maintaining systemic white dominance, Akbar offers a framework that is crucial for comprehending the socio-political realities affecting black people and other communities of color. White privilege, as Akbar describes, is not merely about individual prejudice or bias, but is embedded within institutions, policies, and historical legacies that consistently favor white individuals while marginalizing others. However, beyond merely recognizing white privilege, Akbar compels us to consider how members of the black community, whether knowingly or unknowingly, participate in sustaining these structures. The discussion of black privilege adds a nuanced layer to the conversation, highlighting how certain black individuals benefit within the system by aligning with its status quo, often at the expense of the broader black collective. The implications of these dynamics extend beyond the African American experience and resonate with people of color globally. As colonial histories, economic inequalities, and racial hierarchies persist across nations, understanding the mechanisms of privilege and collaboration becomes essential for fostering resistance and systemic change. This essay will expand on Akbar's key themes, critically analyze their implications, and explore pathways toward empowerment, solidarity, and transformative action for the global majority. Understanding white privilege. White privilege refers to the systemic advantages afforded to white individuals within a society structured around racial hierarchies. These advantages are not necessarily a result of individual effort or merit, but are deeply entrenched within institutions such as education, law enforcement, politics, and the economy. Akbar emphasizes that white privilege is not just about overt racism, but is woven into the very fabric of societal operations, making it difficult to dismantle without conscious effort. A critical aspect of white privilege, its invisibility to those who benefit from it. Many white individuals do not recognize their privileged status because it is normalized within society. They may view their achievements as purely a result of hard work, overlooking the systemic barriers that prevent black individuals and other marginalized groups from accessing the same opportunities. This lack of awareness perpetuates the cycle of privilege, as those who benefit from it are often the least likely to advocate for its dismantling. The concept of black privilege. While the term black privilege may seem contradictory in a world where systemic racism disadvantages black people, Akbar introduces it as a way to describe the advantages some black individuals gain by aligning with white-dominated systems. This form of privilege is conditional and does not equate to the structural advantages of white privilege, but it does create divisions within the black community. Not equate to the structural advantages of white privilege, but it does create divisions within the black community. Black privilege manifests in various ways, such as economic mobility, political positioning, or social status granted to black individuals who conform to white cultural expectations. These individuals may be rewarded with access to elite spaces, economic stability, or institutional power, but often at the cost of distancing themselves from broader black struggles. This creates an illusion of racial progress, while allowing the systemic inequalities that oppress the majority of black people to remain intact. Black collaboration with white privilege. Black collaboration with white privilege occurs when black individuals or groups support and sustain the structures that uphold white dominance. This collaboration can be intentional or unintentional, but its consequences are far-reaching. Akbar suggests that many black leaders, intellectuals, and professionals find themselves in positions where maintaining the status quo benefits them personally, even as it harms the broader black community. Examples of black collaboration include political compliance, black politicians who adopt policies that prioritize white interests over the needs of their communities; corporate alignment, black professionals who conform to predominantly white corporate cultures while avoiding discussions of systemic racism; cultural complicity, black entertainers and influencers who reinforce harmful stereotypes or fail to use their platforms to challenge racial injustices. While some forms of collaboration arise from survival strategies in a racially biased society, they ultimately weaken collective efforts for racial justice. Akbar urges black individuals to critically assess their roles within these systems and to actively work towards dismantling oppressive structures rather than benefiting from them. Implications for the global majority. The dynamics of white privilege and black collaboration are not confined to the United States. They extend to other regions where racial hierarchies are maintained through economic, political, and cultural means. Across Africa, Latin America, Asia, and the Caribbean, post-colonial structures have left behind systems that favor the interests of white-dominated institutions, while marginalizing local populations. For instance, in many African nations, economic systems are still heavily influenced by Western interests, creating a cycle where local elites collaborate with international corporations at the expense of the majority population. Similar patterns can be observed in Latin America, where indigenous and Afro-descendant communities remain disproportionately affected by poverty and disenfranchisement. Recognizing these global parallels is crucial for fostering international solidarity. People of color worldwide must work together to challenge neocolonialism, advocate for economic independence, and build institutions that prioritize the needs of the marginalized. Pathways to empowerment and systemic change. To break the cycle of white privilege and black collaboration, several key actions are necessary. Education and consciousness raising. Black communities must invest in education that highlights historical truths, exposes systemic inequalities, and empowers individuals to challenge racial hierarchies. Black-owned businesses and investing in self-sufficient economic models can reduce reliance on white-dominated institutions. Political mobilization. Black leaders must be held accountable to their communities, ensuring that their policies and actions align with collective liberation rather than personal gain. Global solidarity. Building alliances with other marginalized communities around the world can amplify efforts to dismantle racial and economic injustices on a larger scale. Conclusion. Dr. Naim Akbar's exploration of white privilege, black privilege, and black collaboration presents a critical framework for understanding racial dynamics in contemporary society. While white privilege continues to shape systemic inequities, the role of black collaboration in sustaining these structures cannot be ignored. By critically examining these dynamics and fostering collective resistance, black people and the global majority can work towards dismantling oppressive systems and creating a future based on justice, equality, and true empowerment.